Hi friends, welcome to today's video. My name's Stephanie and today I'm going to be doing another Q&A to celebrate my 2-year anniversary on YouTube. I did my first Q&A not that long ago and thought it was just so much fun, so I figured why not do another one to celebrate 2 years, which is so crazy to think, by the way. I feel like time went by so fast. I'll talk a little bit more about that stuff at the end. For now, let's just get into your questions. So starting with some of the nail related questions, the first one that I have is, would I ever show my collection of charms or nail art stickers? And I never really thought about doing that, I guess because I don't really use them that often. I did show them briefly when I did my nail desk tour because I have this drawer that pulls out and that's where I keep like all of my Cirque charms and other kind of loose powders and whatnot. But then I do have a ton of nail art stickers, mainly from Deco Miami, but they're in just like a separate box because I don't know where else to store them. I feel like a lot of the stuff that I have, especially the charms from Cirque, aren't really around anymore because they like to release a lot of limited edition stuff. But if you are interested in seeing like a closer look at all of my charms and stickers, definitely let me know. I could consider doing like a shorter video or maybe like a series of shorts to go over each of them, but let me know what you'd want to see. These next two questions pretty much go hand in hand, but they were asking about how I got into indie polishes and what was my first indie brand. So I'm sure I've mentioned this before, but I pretty much got into like the nail polish scene back in 2015 when I first started my Instagram account. And that's pretty much how I discovered a lot of indie brands because of the accounts that I was following, like Nail Storming back then. I remember her sharing a lot of these like loaded lacquer polishes. And so that was the first indie brand that I ever tried. I feel like she was really known for like her jelly polishes back then, as well as like her glitter toppers and like glitter bombs. And I'm pretty sure around that time too, I did discover Noodles nail polish either through Etsy or like Instagram as well. As you probably know, I have shared Noodles nail polish so much on my channel. I just really love that brand so much. So yeah, I feel like Instagram is the way to like discover new indie brands. I don't remember if they called it the Explore page back then. That's pretty much how you come across new brands now. Like you just follow different people and see what they post and you just get introduced to all these new brands. So these next three questions are all YouTube related, so I figured I can just group them all together, but they're pretty much what made me start YouTube. Was it me trying to turn my nail polish addiction profitable? And why did I start doing comparisons? So starting from the beginning, I know I mentioned this in last year's video that YouTube is just something I've always wanted to do because, like I just mentioned, I was doing Instagram for several years and I feel like YouTube was just kind of the next like step, or at least something to do side by side. Obviously I was following a lot of like nail content creators and I just loved the idea of doing long form videos talking about nail polishes and gushing over them. I loved all the different kind of tag videos and like the favorites videos, and it was just something that I wanted to share as well. But unfortunately at the time I was still living with my parents and it just was not a positive, healthy environment. So I never really felt comfortable to start a channel and like talk to myself on camera. It wasn't until moving in with Ryan several years ago that I was like, okay, I finally have like my own space and I can feel comfortable finally to do this. With the second question, as far as like trying to turn my addiction profitable, I wouldn't even say that that's the case because even though I've had my Instagram since 2015 and I only started my YouTube like 2 years ago, between all of those years, I only had one Helmer. So I wasn't really like buying a lot of polish. I had a pretty small-ish collection, at least compared to now where I have 4 Helmers. My collection really just exploded when a couple of years ago, my Instagram account exploded and I just got a lot of followers. And so more and more brands wanted to like send me PR, and so I needed to expand. And as far as doing the comparisons go, it's pretty much because I have always wanted to see that. And so I thought if I wanted to see it, surely other people do too, especially because, as I'm sure you know, there are a ton of different indie brands out there and different polishes and a lot of overlap. And especially once I started getting PR from all the brands that have that kind of overlap, I was like, okay, I have to show you guys comparisons. Because I don't know if you noticed, but I am also kind of a stickler when it comes comes to calling polishes dupes. And so it would kind of drive me crazy whenever I'm like reading on Reddit and people are talking about, you know, like new upcoming collections and saying, oh, but this shade looks like a dupe for this one that came out before. Because I'm like, I mean, they might be kind of similar, but they're not dupes. So I really wanted to show you that. Okay, I lied. I do have a few more YouTube questions. This next one is, where do I want to see my channel go and what aspirations do I have for my channel? So this might sound bad maybe, but I just never really thought about it. I know that's not really like the smartest thing, because I feel like especially for creators, they're always pushed to set these goals and, you know, things that they want to accomplish. And don't get me wrong, like I still would love to accomplish certain things, hit certain milestones. Like recently, speaking of milestones, I just hit like 6,000 subscribers, which is so crazy to think about because just last year I only had 2,000. And so it makes me think like, whoa, I'm like pretty close to 10,000. Like that just sounds so crazy. So that would be fun to celebrate, but I'm not really like making it a goal to hit these specific numbers where it reflects in my content, if that makes sense. Like a lot of the videos that I do are not really geared towards like hitting the algorithm and going viral or something like that. I just like focusing on videos for like the nail community. So, you know, if you're like in the space, you might like my videos. But yeah, the only goals that I really have are just to continue improving my content any way that I can with what I can. Because like I've mentioned, I just record on my iPhone. I just have like a ring light. My equipment is not fancy by any means, but I still try to implement whatever suggestions I get to just improve like the watching experience. I just want to improve my content and hope that people follow along. So back to some other nail related questions. This next one says, what changes would you like to see from brands over the next year? And I thought this was such a good question. I like immediately had so many things pop into my head. First one, mainly for like indie brands, but I would love to see just less limited edition stuff. I feel like that's just self-explanatory, you know, maybe saving it for like a special occasion I can understand. Like I love a good little limited edition birthday / anniversary type of polish. And maybe it is also kind of hypocritical for me to say that because I like actively participate in polish pickup, which are all limited edition monthly polishes, but at least like you know what to expect with that. I'm talking about when brands will just like release something that's limited edition just because. And I do get that maybe there is like, you know, an ingredient sourcing issue that they might have where they just can't guarantee it's going to be in stock forever. But I feel like at that point, then just like don't release it. I think I'd also love to see just brands implementing more customer feedback, obviously, especially when it's necessary. Like if a brand, you know, messes up, makes a mistake, whatever, there's always going to be a lot of feedback regarding that, and you would hope that the brand is going to actually listen and learn from it. But even when it's not surrounding anything like negative, like a controversy or scandal, I feel like it's still important as a brand to take into consideration what your customers are saying. Like most recently, Cracked Polish, which I've shared a couple of times on my channel, said that she's going to be getting rid of her cracked tops because they've caused a lot of confusion, where especially paired with the name of the polish, people are just misled into thinking that they are crackle polishes, but they're not, and that was never her intention to do that. And she's definitely still like a new brand, so I can only imagine how hard it must have been to get all that feedback about the appearance of your brand and basically having to change this aspect of your branding. But she did. She listened to that and she saw that a lot of people were still confused, even though she had like a whole post on social media kind of explaining like, no, we are not doing crackle polishes. I think she realized that people on like the outside who don't know anything about like indie brands or her brand specifically are going to be under like a different impression, and that can turn away a lot of people. Something else that I would really love to see from brands over the next year and in the future in general is to see brands actually pay their content creators. This is kind of like a whole separate issue, but it's something that I think is very important, and it kind of does blow my mind that there are some very popular indie brands, boutique brands, that they somehow don't have the budget to pay their swatchers or, you know, people who promote them a lot. Like, it's just kind of weird, you know? So I would like to see that change. Okay, so this next question is, are you a pedicure lover? And I guess I wouldn't consider myself to be one. Like, I would much prefer spending the time doing like my nails. This might be crazy to say, but I don't even paint my toes in like the fall and winter because I just run really cold. So I always have socks on and I don't really care about having polish, but I definitely will paint them if we're going to like the pool or the beach. The next question asks if I would ever make my own nail polish, and I would say no. I don't know how specific they're being, if I would ever like try to just make my own for my own purposes, or if I would make my own brand. As cool as it sounds, I feel like I'm just not that creative, and so I would really struggle with coming up with polishes that you haven't seen before, and I feel like that would also kind of end up going against what I do on my channel, where like, how am I gonna create polishes and then not show you comparisons? So yeah, I don't think I have it in me to just create new polishes like that. The next question asks if I would ever collab with a brand, and if so, what would it look like? Kind of similar to how I answered the last question, it would be cool, so I would love to do that in a way, but at the same time, I would also dread it just because of the pressure to make something worthwhile. I would just be so scared, I guess, to make something that basically already exists. Like when Island P released Flower Child, I was like, oh my God, this is like the shade that I have been waiting for, where if I did have the opportunity to collab with a brand, I would basically want that. And then now they did it. So I'm like, okay, well, what would I do now? I guess I should brainstorm though, just in case I ever do get the opportunity, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was something super sparkly, but also very dreamy. Next question asks if anybody has ever recognized me, or if anybody from my real life has found my videos. Definitely have not been recognized in public. I don't think I ever will be. I mean, I guess maybe there's the chance, because since I live in Philly, sometimes if I post about a place that I've gone to, I'll get a few DMs saying like, oh my God, I'm in Philly too. So I guess there is that chance, just because we're in like a big city. And as far as people from like my real life finding my videos, I'm pretty sure, because again, since I've had my Instagram for so long, I'm sure there's people that I know from high school or college who found that account and then have found my videos, which I do kind of hate the thought of that, because I hate being perceived, especially by people that I used to know, but what can you do? And the last nail related question that I have is, how do I come up with nail art ideas? And I have a couple of answers for that. Like usually, especially if I'm stuck in a rut, I will just take inspiration from people that I follow. So I follow a lot of nail accounts and I just really love some of their designs, and I'm like, oh my God, I would love to try to either fully recreate it or again be like loosely inspired by it. There's also designs that I just love to kind of repeat because I like doing them, like certain gradients or floral designs, but I try to switch it up a little bit with like the colors at least. And whenever I was commissioned by brands to do some nail art for a collection, I was really inspired by the collection's theme and would try to come up with a design that really like encompasses the theme. Some of my favorites were when I did a look for Mooncat for their Lost in a Folktale collection, and especially when I did a look for Cirque's Super Future collection a few years ago, because it was just so like out of my element. As you know, I'm only like a recent multi-chrome kind of lover, so to do a nail art look inspired by like multi-chromes and this like futuristic sort of vibe was really hard for me, but I just loved how that mani turned out. I also really love just getting inspiration from things that are around me, especially like fabrics and textiles. Like I've done nail art looks inspired by shirts or even towels. Like most recently, I've been wanting to do these nail art looks inspired by my oven mitts and also by a drink that I got from Wawa because it created this really pretty gradient. So as cliche as it might sound, inspiration can really be all around you. So I feel like this next question is kind of like a great transition one because it ties into my YouTube videos, but is also like kind of a personal one. Somebody basically asked me, where do I shop for clothes? Because they just really like how I try to match the themes of the videos. And admittedly, or maybe embarrassingly enough, a lot of my clothes are just kind of old. My mom used to work at this store called Mandy, which I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with that. Because she worked there, she got a really sick discount, and so I got a lot of cute tops from there. I also am a big fan of shopping at like Marshall's and Target. I do have a few dresses from Francesca's, which I think is kind of like a boutique store. As you can tell, I am not really somebody who spends a lot of money on clothes. I have even gotten some things from Amazon, which I don't like to do, but when I'm in a pinch for a certain video and I really want to like get the theme, that's where I'll go. So yeah, unfortunately, I'm not really shopping anywhere super exciting. This next question is asking if I'm married or have a family because I look pretty young, which as a Libra that recently entered her 30s, thank you. But no, I am not married. I do have a partner. His name is Ryan, and we've been together for coming on 7 years this summer. Got a couple of questions asking if I have like a real job, like outside of YouTube, and what my degree is in. So I did go to school for graphic design and I graduated with my BFA, but I never really worked in the field. After college, I actually ended up working at a chiropractor's office, kind of at like a front desk position, though there definitely were a lot of other things I was doing as well, but some of that included doing little flyers and graphics for the office's like Facebook pages or whatever. I unfortunately realized a little too late in my college career that it's not something I really wanted to do, because once I started looking at those job descriptions that are like, do you like working in a fast-paced, high-pressure environment? I was like, absolutely not. But I obviously still have a lot of respect for the field and the designers that I went to school with because they do some really cool things. It just wasn't for me. I also did get a couple of questions asking about the yogi part of my name and how I got into yoga, if I'm an instructor. I first got into yoga when I was in like 7th or 8th grade because after school one day, I saw that there was this program on TV called like Namaste, and it was this short 30-minute kind of yoga session, and I just really enjoyed doing that after school, and so that kind of started my practice. I'm not an instructor and I haven't even been to a yoga class before, which might sound crazy. I really am only self-taught, mainly through YouTube videos, but I still really love the practice. It's not something that I have been doing like every day, and I admittedly have gone in and out of it over the years, but it really is something that is just so meaningful to me because I love the connection of mind and body and spirit. And so even though I'm maybe slacking on the discipline side of it, I still really, really value the practice. This next question was asking if I would ever do a plant tour collection. And I really love that because I love my plants, even though they're not like unique or rare by any means. Like I have very basic plants, I still really, really love them because I really got into them just a couple of years ago during the pandemic pretty much, and I was in a dark place at that time, as I'm sure a lot of people were, and so it just was really therapeutic to have so many things to take care of when I was kind of struggling taking care of myself. So yeah, I don't know how many people would want to actually see like a whole plant tour. Maybe I can do a video for it, but if you do want to see the plants that I do have and kind of my plant journey over the past 2 years, I do have a whole highlight over on my Instagram page. Then I did get a couple of questions asking about music and what are my favorite bands or artists, and this was kind of hard because I'm one of those people who likes like a lot of different genres. My liked songs on my Spotify are all over the place. Yes, generally, I do really like genres like bedroom pop or indie. I also really love alternative music, and I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this in a video before that I really love listening to video game music or music from anime or just movies or shows. So I don't really have like a band or artist that I'm super attached to necessarily, though I do really love Kings of Leon because I kind of like grew up listening to them. So it's kind of hard to narrow it down when I just like specific songs from different artists or bands. And the last question that I have is, what is my favorite book? And this is another one that is kind of hard because I am actually not really a reader. I definitely would love to change that, but it just is so hard sometimes to get back into something that you've been out of for a while. And a lot of the books that I have read aren't even like fiction. They're mainly like self-help / psychology kind of books. But for the fiction books that I have read that I really, really love, I would say The Alchemist is definitely a top one, followed by The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. There is also this series that I really love called The Sword of Truth. I first read that in high school and would reread it like every couple of years. I guess that one is more of like a fantasy book, which I think I really love that genre. So if you do have any kind of fantasy recommendations, let me know. So that wraps up my Q&A to celebrate my 2-year anniversary. I did do my best to answer as many as I could, but there were a few that I couldn't just because of how long this was gonna take, because obviously I love to talk. So for any questions that I did miss, I am gonna go reply to them in the community tab. But yeah, thank you for asking them. Thank you for being here and following me on my little YouTube journey, because it might seem like a very, I don't know, maybe like superficial thing where it's just straightforward, like swatch and review type of videos. But as I'm sure so many of you know, I like to do a lot of other styles of videos too, and different series, and just be a little bit more personal, I guess. It really does mean a lot that you're here following me along for that. And I do also appreciate you guys just valuing my opinion when it comes to those swatch and reviews. I'm just so happy that I can help so many people when it comes to making decisions on what polishes to buy. But before I let you go, I definitely do want to kind of check in and ask for some feedback and what you think of my videos and the quality, and if there's anything that I can improve. Like I kind of mentioned already, I feel like I have done my best to implement whatever suggestions that I've gotten over the past year. And you can really tell, like if you go back to some of the early videos, it's really different. Honestly, kind of makes me cringe thinking about like how those older videos were, but you know, we all start somewhere. Just want to see if you think there's anything else that I can do to improve. But if not, I would love to know any and all thoughts that you have down below so we can chat about it. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.